Directed by Jeremy Gillespie and Steven Kostanski, The Void is an indie cosmic horror gem that channels the grotesque spirit of John Carpenter and Clive Barker. It opens with a routine night in a rural hospital where a police officer brings in an injured man, only for reality to unravel in the most nightmarish way possible. Soon, strange figures in white robes begin surrounding the building, and people inside start experiencing bizarre visions and monstrous transformations. What follows is an escalating descent into body horror and interdimensional chaos, as the hospital becomes ground zero for something much larger than any human comprehension. What makes The Void stand out is its practical effects and minimalist storytelling. The grotesque creature designs, inspired by The Thing and Hellraiser, feel tangible and viscerally real. Though made on a modest budget and with limited theatrical release, The Void gained cult status for its ambition and unrelenting dread. It never fully explains what The Void is, only that once you've seen it, you're never coming back whole. Directed by Andrew Lemon, The Call of Cthulhu is a unique entry in the genre, not just because it's a faithful adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's iconic short story, but because it's shot as a silent film in the styles of 1920s cinema. Black and white, silent, and stylized to match the era the story was written in, the film recreates the creeping dread of Lovecraft's most famous creation in a form that feels like it was pulled straight from the past. The narrative follows a professor unraveling a series of disturbing reports, cults worshipping an ancient being, strange carvings, and the madness of those who witness it. Piece by piece, he uncovers the story of Cthulhu, a slumbering god whose mere presence can drive people insane. Unlike most modern horror, The Call of Cthulhu never relies on jump scares or gore. The horror here is existential, about forbidden knowledge, the insignificance of mankind, and what lurks just beyond the veil of perception. Produced by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, the film was made on a small budget, but has been praised for its authenticity and atmosphere. It's a rare example of cosmic horror that understands its source material so well, it changes how we see adaptations altogether. Based on a novella by Stephen King and directed by Frank Darabont, The Mist starts with a simple premise. A mysterious fog rolls into a small town, trapping a group of people inside a grocery store. But what's in the mist is anything but simple. Otherworldly creatures from another dimension, brought into our world by a military experiment gone wrong. The horror of The Mist is twofold. On one hand, you've got tentacled monsters, spider beasts, and winged terrors stalking the fog. On the other, you've got the people inside, paranoid, terrified, and increasingly violent. As society breaks down, religious fanaticism takes hold, and the fear of the unknown turns the survivors against each other. Shot on an $18 million budget, the film was praised for its bleak tone, strong ensemble cast, and practical effects. It's the infamously brutal ending that made it unforgettable. Darabont changed the story's original conclusion to something far darker, one that polarized audiences but perfectly captured the despair and futility that defines cosmic horror. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, Event Horizon blends science fiction with cosmic horror in a way that still divides audiences decades later. The story follows a rescue crew sent to investigate the Event Horizon, a spaceship that mysteriously reappears after vanishing without a trace. Designed to test faster-than-light travel, the ship was supposed to create a wormhole through space. Instead, it opened a door to something far more terrifying. The crew quickly realizes that the ship has returned from a place beyond comprehension, a dimension of pure chaos, suffering, and malevolent intelligence. The Event Horizon itself becomes a character, almost sentient, manipulating their minds, exposing their deepest traumas, and slowly turning them against each other. While the film includes traditional sci-fi elements like gravity drives and technical jargon, it's steeped in cosmic dread. There's no alien monster to fight. The true enemy is the unknown void that lies beyond our reality, and the way it corrupts human consciousness. That's what makes Event Horizon so deeply unsettling. Though it flopped upon release and was heavily edited due to graphic content, Event Horizon has since gained a cult following, and while the film doesn't name its horrors, fans of Lovecraft immediately recognize the influence. Directed by Richard Stanley and based on Lovecraft's short story of the same name, Color Out of Space brings cosmic terror to the family farm. The film stars Nicolas Cage as Nathan Gardner, whose rural life is turned upside down when a glowing meteorite crashes near his home, leaking a color unlike any seen on Earth and infecting everything it touches. The horror here is slow, surreal, and deeply unsettling. Plants and animals begin to mutate. Time feels distorted. The family starts losing their grip on reality, emotionally, physically, and mentally. The color becomes a kind of alien infection, not through creatures or invaders, but through distortion of natural laws themselves. Shot in bright, hypersaturated tones with excellent practical effects, the film is as beautiful as it is disturbing. Cage's performance teeters between comical and tragic, which oddly fits the tone of the movie, absurd and horrifying all at once. Stanley's return to directing after decades of absence added to the film's mythos, and it quickly became a standout in modern Lovecraftian cinema. Color Out of Space doesn't rely on monsters or jump scares. Its horror comes from the realization that something incomprehensible is rewriting reality itself, and there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. Directed by David Pryor, The Empty Man is a slow-burning descent into cosmic horror that disguises itself as a supernatural urban legend movie. The film opens with a group of hikers in Bhutan discovering a skeletal figure inside a cave. One of them falls into a catatonic trance. From there, the story jumps to the US, where a former cop investigates the disappearance of a teenage girl. What starts as a search and rescue mystery gradually reveals a conspiracy involving thought forms, alternate realities, and a consciousness-devouring entity known as the Empty Man. The deeper the investigation goes, the more fractured reality becomes. People behave like they're being watched, or controlled. The world itself begins to unravel. The brilliance of the Empty Man lies in its layering. It blends folklore, detective noir, and philosophical dread, all building toward the idea that the protagonist might not be a man chasing the truth. He might be a vessel, created by the truth, to house something far older than human memory. Released quietly by a studio that didn't know how to market it, the film was initially overlooked. But once it hit streaming, it found a devoted fanbase who praised its ambition, complexity, and creeping sense of doom. Its 22-minute prologue is often considered one of the best cold opens in recent horror. Directed by John Carpenter, In the Mouth of Madness is the final chapter of his unofficial Apocalypse trilogy, and it dives headfirst into Lovecraftian horror. The film stars Sam Neill as John Trent, an insurance investigator hired to locate a missing horror novelist named Sutter Kane, whose books are rumored to have strange effects on readers. As Trent journeys to find Kane, he stumbles into a town that may or may not exist, filled with warped people, impossible geography, and increasingly bizarre events. The deeper he investigates, the more he loses touch with reality. And the terrifying revelation? Kane's writing is reshaping the world, and Trent may be just another character in his next book. The film constantly plays with the idea that belief is power. If enough people believe something, does it become real? And if it does become real, who decides where the story ends? Carpenter's direction leans into surreal visuals and mind-bending logic loops, creating a walking nightmare where even the protagonist's thoughts are no longer his own. Though underappreciated during its initial release, the film has been re-evaluated as one of the most accurate cinematic expressions of cosmic horror. Directed by Robert Eggers, The Lighthouse is a psychological horror film that explores isolation, identity, and the breakdown of reality. It stars Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson as two lighthouse keepers assigned to a remote New England island in the 1890s. Cut off from the world, the men begin to lose track of time, memory, and eventually their sense of self. The film is shot in black and white, with a square aspect ratio, which adds to the claustrophobic atmosphere. As the story progresses, strange occurrences begin to mount. Seagulls behave aggressively. The light in the tower becomes an object of obsession. Visions of sea creatures and distorted memories start to surface. While the film appears to focus on two men unraveling due to cabin fever, its deeper themes suggest a cosmic scale of influence. There's no clear explanation for what's happening. The film avoids giving answers. The horror comes from the idea that the universe is not just uncaring, but actively incomprehensible. The Lighthouse was praised for its performances and visual style. It draws heavily from maritime folklore and early 20th century horror literature, especially stories that question reality and human significance. It does not rely on gore or violence. The horror is internal, slow, and relentless. Directed by Alex Garland and based on the novel by Jeff Vandermeer, Annihilation is a science fiction horror film that deals with identity, transformation, and the limits of human understanding. The story follows a team of scientists entering a mysterious zone known as the Shimmer, a quarantined area where the laws of nature no longer apply. Inside the Shimmer, DNA mutates across species. Time becomes unreliable. Individuals begin to question their memories, bodies, and even their personalities. The landscape is beautiful but disturbing. A bear can scream with the voice of its last victim. Flowers grow in human patterns. Everything is changing into something new. The team enters in search of answers, but finds none. One by one, they're either consumed, transformed, or broken. The lead character, played by Natalie Portman, reaches the source, a lighthouse, only to encounter a non-verbal, non-human being that mimics her every move. With a budget of $40 to $55 million, Annihilation was visually ambitious and thematically dense. It struggled at the box office, but was embraced by fans of philosophical science fiction and cosmic dread. The film's climax perfectly captured the heart of the genre, that the real horror lies not in death, but in transformation and incomprehension. Directed by John Carpenter, The Thing is a landmark in science fiction and horror. Set in an isolated Antarctic research station, The film follows a group of scientists who discover that a shape-shifting alien has infiltrated their camp. It can imitate any living organism perfectly. No one knows who's still human. The story begins when a dog, chased by a helicopter, is brought into the base. Soon after, people begin to act strangely. When the creature is revealed, it's grotesque, violent, and constantly changing form. It doesn't speak. It doesn't have a clear motive. It survives by absorbing and copying other life forms. The fear in the thing comes from mistrust and paranoia. The men are trapped in a frozen environment, unable to escape or contact the outside world. As they begin to turn on each other, the viewer is left questioning who's still real. The special effects by Rob Bottin set a new standard in body horror. Everything is done practically, without CGI, giving the transformations a disturbingly physical presence. The final scenes offers no answers, just uncertainty. At the time of its release, the film was not a commercial success. Critics were harsh. Over time, however, it's been re-evaluated as one of the greatest horror films ever made. Its portrayal of alien intelligence isn't evil, but indifferent. It behaves according to a logic that humans can't understand. Directed by Stuart Gordon and based on a short story by H.P. Lovecraft, From Beyond explores the dangers of tampering with perception. The plot centers on a machine called the Resonator, a device that stimulates the pineal gland and allows users to see into another dimension. The problem is that the things from that dimension can also see them. After an experiment goes wrong, one scientist is killed and another is mutated. A psychologist and a detective join the investigation, but once the Resonator is activated again, reality starts to collapse. The characters begin to experience hallucinations, physical changes, and attacks from creatures that exist just beyond ordinary human senses. The horror in From Beyond is both psychological and physical. The film shows how a small shift in perception can unleash something uncontrollable. The visual effects are heavily reliant on slime, prosthetics, and practical gore. The tone is aggressive and surreal. While the film includes some campy elements, it stays true to Lovecraft's theme of hidden worlds that humans are not meant to access. From Beyond is not a mainstream hit, but it gained cult status among fans of body horror and Lovecraft adaptations. It shows how easily the line between curiosity and catastrophe can be crossed when humans reach into areas they were never meant to explore. Directed by Suzanne Bier, and based on the novel by Josh Malerman, Bird Box presents a world overrun by invisible entities that cause instant madness and suicide when seen. The story follows a woman named Mallory, played by Sandra Bullock, as she attempts to survive and protect two children in a world where keeping your eyes closed is the only way to stay alive. The creatures are never shown. No one knows what they are or where they came from. Different people see different things. Some are driven to immediate death, while others become obsessed and worship the entities. Most of the film takes place with the characters blindfolded, trying to navigate both urban and wilderness environments. The fear is constant and internal. Every decision is based on trust, sound, and instinct. There's no confrontation, only avoidance. While some critics focus on its similarities to A Quiet Place, Bird Box carved out its own path with themes of motherhood, grief, and existential horror. It became one of Netflix's biggest hits, sparking viral memes, blindfold challenges, and debates about what the creatures actually are. Directed by Jeffrey A. Brown, The Beach House is a quiet atmospheric horror film that explores infection, environmental decay, and cosmic inevitability. The story follows a young couple who visit a remote beach house, hoping to reconnect. Unexpected visitors arrive, but what begins as a tense interpersonal drama quickly shifts into something far more disturbing. As the night unfolds, a strange fog rolls in from the ocean, bringing with it bizarre changes in the water, the people, and the very air around them. The infection is slow and creeping. At first it's just sickness and confusion, but then come the mutations, the memory loss, the grotesque transformations of human bodies into something alien. The film avoids jump scares and fast pacing, instead opting for an atmosphere of inevitable doom. Shot on a small budget, The Beach House delivers psychological unease through soft visuals, gooey effects, and eerie silence. It's the kind of film that doesn't explain much and doesn't need to. Nature itself seems to have turned against humanity, and what's left behind isn't human anymore. Directed by William Eubank, Underwater takes place at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where a team of researchers must escape a collapsing deep-sea drilling station. Early in the film, the facility is damaged by what appears to be an earthquake. As the survivors attempt to reach safety, they discover that something massive and ancient has been awakened. The film moves quickly, with little build-up. The main character, played by Kristen Stewart, leads the group through narrow corridors, flooded chambers, and pitch-black ocean floors. Along the way, they are hunted by creatures that are clearly not native to Earth. At first, they appear as small, agile predators. Later, it's revealed that these are only fragments of something much larger. The final creature, only partially seen, resembles a godlike being that dwarfs anything the characters have encountered. It's not explained. It doesn't need to be. Its presence alone redefines the threat. Humanity is no longer at the top of the food chain. Underwater was released with little promotion, but it has since gained attention for its strong cosmic horror elements. The film leaves most of its mythology untouched. That choice makes it more effective. The idea that such a being could exist below us, unnoticed and undisturbed, fits the theme of significance and dread that defined cosmic horror. Directed by Christian Alvard, Pandoraum is a science fiction horror film set on a massive spaceship called the Elysium. The film begins with two crew members waking from hypersleep with no memory of who they are or what their mission is. As they explore the ship, they discover that the rest of the crew is missing, the systems are malfunctioning, and something is lurking in the dark. The ship is meant to transport thousands of humans to a new planet after Earth became uninhabitable, but during the journey, something went wrong. The passengers evolved into aggressive mutant-like creatures. Meanwhile, the remaining survivors are scattered and paranoid, each struggling with isolation and fear. The title refers to a condition known as Pandoraum, a form of deep space psychosis brought on by sensory deprivation and stress. However, the true horror of the film goes beyond mental breakdown. It suggests that time, memory, and biology can be distorted by the extreme conditions of space and isolation. As the characters dig deeper, they realize the mission has already failed in ways they never expected. The idea of hope or rescue is replaced by a darker understanding of what the ship has become and what they may already be. Pandoraum did not succeed commercially, but it developed a loyal following for its grim tone and high-concept horror. It combines the physical threats of mutated monsters with the psychological terror of losing one's mind in an environment that's cold, endless, and uncaring. That's a wrap on part 1. If you stuck around through all 15, you've officially dipped your toes into the weirdest, darkest corners of horror. If you're not sure where to jump in, The Thing is a solid place to start. It's tense, brutal, and still holds up better than most modern horror. And yeah, we're far from done. There's plenty more cosmic madness we haven't touched yet. Part 2 is already coming together, so hit subscribe so you don't miss it.